also sharing your personal experience and what led you to the bill. I found that incredibly impactful. So I too got contacted by my county's police department, my city police department here in the city of Annapolis regarding the bill. So I want to make sure that the intent of it is clear so that whatever direction I go on the bill, people will understand what my understanding was of the intent of the bill. By way of question, do you know if there is a cure to implicit bias?
No.
Yeah, we can do training on implicit bias. We can learn how to identify it. We can develop different responses that we choose to deploy. But in terms of curing the implicit bias that exists in all of us, we're not there yet, right?
It's in us.
It's in us. And when we look at terms de facto and de jure, sometimes you look at something based on the intent when you go into it. You want to isolate a particular group. Your goal is to harm someone or to have a particular effect. And sometimes you get to a result based on what the actual data tells you and what the results are. It's similar to if there's a drug that they're testing for medical purposes and they realize, oh, the people on this trial, they all lost a bunch of weight. So now it's a weight loss drug. Or, you know, all the people on this trial had this effect. So now we'll use it for that purpose. I think of de facto in the same way, that if we look at the results and the results tell us one thing, then we must be guided by those results and we must take action based on what the results say. Is that kind of your concept as well?
That is the concept. The data is showing that what we're doing is not working for a part of this community. And again, this is a response. This is a way that we're feeling that we can chip at making these dealing with these offenses safer for the community, and again, given the communications that you've received, that I know many of you have received, generally speaking, law enforcement doesn't think that this is the answer. So then I think the question, the relevant question to them is, then what do you believe is the answer?
I appreciate that. And as a legislator, I think that sometimes our job comes down to balancing risks. We can't take away all the risk of any situation. We can't make the situation perfect. I believe every person in this General Assembly, if we could, we would make it perfect. But sometimes we have what we have, and we have to decide when there are risk factors on both sides, what risk outweigh what other risk. And what I'm hearing is that there are legitimate law enforcement benefits for being able to stop people for these offenses.
Absolutely.
There are opportunities to make initial points of contact where sometimes larger crimes are discovered. Absolutely. Where law enforcement can do things to intervene, to make sure that, you know, meaningful things happen in the course of that discovery.
That's correct.
But what I'm hearing on the other side is that there are really, really great risks to certain communities who the data tells us are at risk more than others.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you as a mom, the day that I handed my son the keys to his car was one of the most terrifying days of my life. And every time he calls me and his name flashes across my phone, I have a fleeting thought of, dear God, I hope he's safe. And when I think about I hope he's safe, I think I hope he's not on the side of a road. I hope he hasn't been pulled over. I hope he's okay. And that happens every single time I see his name. The joy you should have of seeing your son's name who calls you, you know, because he called his mom. That's pretty cool. Right. But it's also tempered by the fleeting thought of, I hope everything's okay. And one of those series of thoughts deals with his engagement and interaction with law enforcement. So in the role of balancing risk, when you look at the risk of perhaps not getting that other benefit of having a person stopped by an officer, and maybe you don't get that opportunity to discover a larger crime. But when you look at the other risks that you could avoid, perhaps that person does make it home safe. Perhaps that driver isn't unfairly targeted. Perhaps Senator Muse can drive his very nice car and be uninterrupted and enjoy the leisure that he's worked hard for. When you think about the risks that you're balancing, do you come down on the side of saying, I have to make sure that a community that's being disproportionately impacted, that I'm blunting some of those risks? Absolutely.
And again, I'll be honest with this group. I've never been a big fan, and Senator Folden and I, we've been able to kumbaya. I've never been a big fan of the automated speed cameras and things, but there are benefits to bringing them in if you don't have to have that risk of those interactions where someone mistakenly going to scratch themselves might scare an officer who they don't know you. You're a stranger to them. They may feel their life is at risk, thereby doing something that is irreversible. So again, we're in the 21st century. Law enforcement is using all types of technologies. And all I'm saying is maybe we need to look at some of these technologies and figure out how we can redeploy our shrinking police staffs to deal with crime that really, really matters rather than bogging them down with these types of offenses and making them, again, secondary offenses. No one is getting rid of any laws that are already on the book. It's a reclassification.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.